Hello!
Hello!
And welcome back to the garage.
Welcome!
We are the guys from the YouTube channel Mech'It Better. I am Kieran and this is John.
He's right, I am John. Now, today on behalf of South Yorkshire Safe Roads Partnership, we're bringing another in our series of videos on small motorbike maintenance. And today, Kieran's ready, we're going to be looking at chain tension, and the bike we're going to be using today is the good old familiar Honda CG125 behind us. So let's just get straight on with it, we'll have a look and see what needs to be done. To the bike!
First thing you're going to need is a motorbike that's chain driven, so that doesn't apply to your scooters with your belts. So the job of this chain is to transfer the power from the engine to the rear wheel. Now over time that chain is going to stretch and it'll need adjusting.
Okay, so for funsies we've adjusted this chain so that it is super slack. On this particular bike what we're looking for is 15mm of freeplay. We'll explain that in a little while. But as you can see there's a lot of slap in this chain. So, well, you can see what's happening there. So as you're driving along the chain will potentially pop off one or both of the sprockets and it could break, it could hit you in the leg, it could damage your engine, it could just throw you off into a bush. But in any case, it's not ideal.
In order to start the adjustment on our CG, we need to be able to pull the wheel further back in the swing arm to take up the slack. In order to do that, we want to put the bike on the centre stand and then get a spanner or a socket on both ends of the rear axle so we can loosen off that nut.
The next step in this process is to loosen off the nut which holds the end of the torque arm. Here on the CG. Not every bike has one, but the CG does. So what we need to do is get some pliers and remove the split pin which stops the nut unwinding while you're riding, and then get your spanner and just loosen off that nut so it's not hindering the motion of the wheel forwards and backwards in the swing arm.
With the wheel free to move in the swing arm, we can focus on the chain tension adjusters on each side of the swing arm. They're held in place each with a lock nut, and that needs to be released so we can make our adjustment. Now you might find it useful to hold the big adjuster nut at the back still to allow you to loosen the lock nut. So getting in close, we got the 12mm at the back to keep that still, and the 10mm up front. You can loosen that off and then you can pop over the other side and do the same on the other.
We're at the point now then where we need to measure the free play in the chain as it is. And on the Honda CG here, that happens in the middle point of this bottom run, so that's the middle between the front and rear sprockets, so I'm going to say about there. Your bike might be slightly different, you might have to measure the top run or somewhere else, so check your manual, make sure you're doing the right thing for your bike. But in our case, it's the middle of the bottom run, so with the bike on the centre stand and on some flat ground, we're just going to pop a ruler in the middle point, we pick a link and move the chain up and down, and all we're doing is measuring the total amount of movement available to us there. In this case it's 25mm and it needs to be 15mm, so we're going to have to add some tension to this chain to reduce the amount that wobbles up and down. To help you adjust the chain evenly on both sides, there are some little marks cast into the swing arm and a little mark cast into the adjuster itself, and I've highlighted those in Tipp-Ex so hopefully you can see them a bit better. Don't forget it is the same on both sides. Now to add tension to this chain we need to move the wheel backwards, and we do that by rotating this nut clockwise. So we're just going to put a quarter turn on that, and because we need to do things evenly we're going to do the same quarter turn on the other side. Now what that might do is move one little notch relative to these notches up here, and you can see where it is here, and it should be the same on the other side. If that's the case, check the chain tension. Now I'm going to say that's a little bit too baggy still, so we're going to add another quarter turn on both sides, and again we'll check that the notches are the same on both sides, and then check the chain tension. It is getting a bit tighter. Let's do a half turn. So we'll do a half turn on this side, half turn on the other side.
I'll have to give you 2 quarters.
I'll do 2 quarters. And then we just check that the marks are the same on both sides, and again check the tension. I'm saying that's still a little bit slack, so we'll go again. He's giving me a quarter turn this time.
Quarter turn, Captain.
Quarter turn, Captain. There's another one. So again checking the marks are the same on both sides of the swing arm. We'll check that tension. Ooh, still a little bit slack I think. Oh, we'll go one more. Another half turn. Oh, what was that? 2/3 of a turn?
That was a quarter at a different angle.
Oh, I see. Again, checking that the marks are the same on both sides, and that feels a little bit more like it. So what we do at that point is measure the free play as we did just in the last scene. So I'm going to get the ruler out and measure that, and we'll see where we're at. We've made some adjustments here then, and we need to check that we're happy with them. So what we need to do is rotate the wheel and find the tightest spot of the chain. So there will be a point on the chain where it moves less than at any other point, I guess. So it's a case of finding where you think it's the tightest and seeing what the measurement does. So I think it's about there. So I get my ruler and measure again. And that is about 15 mil, so I'm quite happy with that. Now the marks are the same on both sides, which means, in theory at least, that the wheel is straight in the frame. If the marks were different one side to the other, the wheel would be like offset in one direction or another, and the handling on the bike would be absolutely terrible. That does of course assume that the adjusters themselves are of a decent quality. So if they are the original Honda ones like mine are, I'm fairly confident that they're accurate. If they were aftermarket cheap parts from somewhere, then they might not be as accurate as these are. So later on we'll show you how to measure that in a different way to make sure that your wheel is actually straight in the frame.
Now that we're happy that we've got the right adjustment on the chain, let's lock in those settings. So we keep that adjuster nut still, wind in your lock nut and tighten it down. Once that's secure, we do the same thing on the opposite side. And while we're round here, we can tighten up the nut that's on the torque arm and then bang in a new split pin. At this point, we can tighten the axle nut back up so the wheel doesn't fall off. There will be a correct torque setting for this, so have a look in your manual. If you can't find it, just make sure it's on pretty tight.
Now that we've got everything fastened up back here, we need to find the tight spot on the chain and remeasure it, because in tightening up all of this business back here, we might have knocked out that adjustment and the chain might be too slack or too tight, and in either case it's not good. It can cause problems for your bike, and there's nothing for it. You're just going to have to redo the whole process. Having said that, we're going to move on. We did tell you that we'll show you a trick to make sure that the adjustments are the same on both sides. So if you come down here, I'll show you how to do that now. Back here at the adjuster then, we've got the adjuster nut itself and the lock nut that we played with earlier, and behind that a whole bunch of threaded bar. Now the theory is, if the alignment is the same on both sides, then the amount of threaded bar visible to us is the same on both sides. So you get your ruler and measure it. In this case it's 12 mil on this side, and we've already measured it. It is 12 mil on the other side, so at least in theory our alignment is correct. So there we are, dear friends. That was how to adjust the chain tension on a chain-driven motorcycle. Any words of wisdom, Kieran? Anything you want to add there?
Oh, absolutely. Now, a lot of what we've said is specific to the CG, and things are likely to be different for whatever bike you have. So always check your manual for the specific settings.
Top tip from the garage there.
From the garage.
From the garage. Don't forget, we've got a whole series of these videos. There's a playlist somewhere which I'm sure you can find. There will be more in the future, so why not subscribe? If you've got any comments, then by all means leave a comment. We'll try and get back to you. And if you like this video, then like it too. Let's do the whole YouTube thing. But for now, that is it. So we shall say goodbye for now, and we'll see you on the next one.
Ta-ra!
Ta-ra!